Yay! I think. I don't know how to fucking do this. I'm gonna turn the music down a little bit. I don't know how the fuck this works, not gonna lie. But I'm gonna play Genshin. I'm gonna try to do the Spiral Abyss, because, like... Actually, hang on. Let me tweet and post my link. How the fuck do I use this? How do I do this? I don't know. Hold on. How do I... Link. How the fuck do I use a Twitch app? I didn't mean to do that. I just want the link, dude. Just give me the link, please. There. I'm good. I'm silly. Okay, hold on. Spiral Abyss and Genshin. Wait, I don't want to... fuck, it's fine. Untethered and housing bust. It's probably... Latency is probably annoying, but it's fine. Watch me do... No, watch me clear the Spiral Abyss. Or... watch me clear this... Bleh! Watch me clear the Spiral Abyss in Genshin. :3. Better than the... I also don't have the sound on for Genshin because I don't like it. I never have had it on. I've I've been playing for like I've been playing Genshin for like 2-3 years, I guess. I want to say almost 3 years now. God, this music is distracting me. Okay. Okay. Also, I am very autistic about this game. It is... Stop texting me. You guys stop texting me. I'm getting distracted. I am autistic about this game, so like all of my most of my characters... I have a lot of the characters. And they're all mostly built. I'm currently building Ito, Noelle, Goro, and I think that's it actually. With just in a team with Farina. I have... I think C1 Daya, if I can say, I think it's Daya. But I don't care, it's fine, I don't like her. Okay, who are the opponents? I don't want to kill those little guys, they're so cute. I don't want to kill them, I don't like that. Okay, I guess I'll do a Hu Tao and then also Arlecchino. Maybe. Okay, so let's do Arlecchino for the first one. Where is Diona? Diona, what is my team for that? Diona, Diluc, Arlecchino, and Hydro Sword Guide. Can never pronounce his name. This guy. And second half, what is my team for that? Layla. Who is my team? I never played that anymore. The team. Layla, Bennett. Where the fuck is he? There he is, Bennett. Almost Ayaka, not Ayaka. Hu Tao, there she is. And then Rosaria. There she is. Okay. Stop texting me! I'm getting distracted. Okay. Oh, I probably should turn the mods off now that I'm thinking about it, actually. How do I hide my fucking UID? Okay, it's fine. Let's just crop this. How do I fucking crop this? There we go. Yay! It's fine. We didn't see that. Okay. I'm scared. I can't fucking switch. I don't hate that. Oh, they're so fucking cute, though! I don't want to kill them. I also have Arlecchino's C2, like, on accident, honestly. I got her C2 when I was pulling for, like, a 4-star, I think, actually, on her banner. Oh! Okay. That was quick. I was pulling for her... No, a 4-star, I think, on that banner. And so I got her C1, and then quickly after that I got her C2, I think? That's like happened to me quite a couple times. Ooh, she's pretty. I forgot how pretty Hu Tao is in this. She doesn't have shoes. Die. Yippee! Oh, that was only one guy. Boo. Okay, it's fine. Chamber 2, let's go. Or, what's the current buff? What is that? Oh, I don't need that actually. Oh, I didn't even notice what the fuck I picked. I just realized. Wait. is okay. The floor and the chamber. Let's do this one. Oh, you love it. Okay, they're just little guys. I don't want to kill them. Come here. If I don't like to kill them. Oh God, these are scary. These are other guys, bigger guys. Don't die. Thank you. Then I get to you. Hello, fella guy. Ah! Okay. This is a... Wait, what the fuck? Oh, I have C3, I think. I forgot, honestly. Because I want Hu Tao C6. Like, she's the only one I really want my C6 for. Because, like, she's... I think her C6 makes it so, like, she can't really die. Or faint, whatever. She can get to, like, 1 HP. Or something. I don't remember. But I love her. She gets crazy when you make that sound. Yeah, I don't know if you could tell, but, like, I literally just use these, like, two. There we go. Like, I use a shield and then my main DPS. I don't really need much else. Don't be so crazy. Floor, okay. Let's do this one, because Hu Tao, oh, actually, they both would love that. Okay. Oh, these are, I don't want to kill these guys either. Why are they the cutest little men ever? And why do we have to make them, like, our enemies? I don't like that. Then I get to you. I don't want to kill them. Ugh. I hate this. Tell me, baby, I love it when you get down. Ooh, let's use burst. Okay, there we go. Yippee! I love Layla. She's my best shield and my favorite shield ever. Let's use burst. Thank you. Yippee! My Hu Tao used to be my strongest until I got Arlecchino. Now Arlecchino is cracked and superior. I'm so sorry, Hu Tao, but I kind of love Arlecchino a little bit more. Ah! Don't kill me, don't kill me. Scythe. Okay. Oh, I don't want to do this. I only have, of course I only have Mualani and Kachina, because they're the only ones out, other than, what the fuck ever his name is, the Dendro Claymore guy. I always want to call him Kimchi, but that's not his name. Can't make that sound. Okay, who are my opponents? That's a lot of guys. A lot of fellas. Can I not just... You know what, I'm gonna use my... I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm gonna use my Elemental Mastery team, whereas, okay, so Yanfei, Kokomi, Nahida, and Miko. And then for this one, I'll just use... I kind of want to use Arlecchino again, but that's kind of boring. I want to use like my first team ever, which is Ganyu... Either Jean or like Mia. I don't like to use Kiyomiya, honestly. I might use Jean, but like if I use Jean, let's do A. I know it's technically the robot or the puppet, whatever. It's not actually A. Then Navia and then Barbara. I love Barbara. Barbara is my favorite healer ever. She is the healer ever. Okay, Chamber. I don't know! I like all of them! Okay, let's choose this one, I guess. Okay, let's go. Miko! I love Miko. My rotation's a little, like, crazy with this one, honestly. With this, team. And it's like, it's just all Elemental Mastery, honestly. It's, like, kind of... Not random, but like, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's kind of random. It just depends. Everyone come over here so I can hit you with my thingy thing. That's not what she said, actually. I don't like that. Die! Miko! Miko, Miko. Oh, no, it's not Miko. It's Kokomi. Miko, Miko. I love Miko. Stop! God damn. Had enough. Die! The fuck? Yippee! I'm coming loose. Ganyu! I love her. She's so pretty. Ooh, okay, Don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. Yippee! Who's texting me? Stop it. You know what? Okay, it's only one opponent, so never mind. I'm not gonna use all my bursts. That was a little silly of me, but it's fine. I got me energy recharge. I'm good. I think. I hope. I don't fucking know. Who's texting me? Stop it. Okay. Okay, let's do this one. I want to do this one. I think I've had enough. Hey! They're so fucking cute! Why would you make me kill them? I hate this game. They're too cute. Oh my god. I don't want to kill them. Everyone come close so I can hit you with my skill. Cannot use Indomains. I don't even know what the fuck I just pressed. Probably just pressed Z on accident, actually. Yippee! How many? Okay. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. It's fine, we're good, we're fine, we're fine. Ah! Die. That'd be great, that'd be fun. Oh. I don't know what the fuck the song was at first. Ah! Yippee! Oh fuck, only 2 of them. That's fine, it's fine. Stop hitting me! It's not how you play the game! I win. You don't let me win because I don't hate pity. And I just hate pity wins and shit, but like, I win. That's how I play the game. Stop hitting me! I'm not even focusing right now. I'm just like fucking talking. Die. Thank you. I was just vibing. Yippee! You know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. I don't have Ganyu as like a physical DPS, like built as a physical DPS. I have her built as like an energy recharge for like her burst, cause like, or like a battery, I guess. But also I have her on a team with A, so like I really need to rebuild her, honestly. I may be a little silly, but like I haven't changed her build since I started playing like 2 years ago. So like I should do that. I should change her build. Ooh, do I need that? I don't need that, but it would be nice. I'll do this one, actually. Fuck it. Whee! Oh goodness. Everyone's on fire. On fire. It's fine, we're good. Die, everyone, die. It'd be so cool of you if you just died. That's probably not very good to say out of context. Actually, I don't want them to die. I want the guys to die, but not the little fellows. I hope you know what I'm talking about. I'm good. It's 8 out of 13, okay. Everyone come close. Everyone come close. Come on, come on, come on. Yay, thank you! Everything works out for me. You know what? I'm gonna use my... Beep. I need to rebuild her too, actually, Yanfei, because like, I like her shield, but like her energy recharge kind of sucks. Die! The fuck? Why won't you die? 12th. Okay, okay, there we go. I wish I could fucking switch it now. Let me switch. Okay. Barbara! I love her. Yeah, this rotation is fucking honestly kind of crazy too. See, I'm autism about this game, but not that much. Like, not enough, I guess, in that way. I don't wanna come home. That didn't make sense, but yeah. Oh, I think it's against the current. I think. Stop! Thank you. That's very cool of you to stop when I tell you to, when I ask you to. Yes, it is. It's against a current. I knew it. B. Beep, bop, bop. Okay, who? Dendro and Hydro. Those are so many fellas. There are so many guys. And there's one guy. Oh wait, I forgot there's more chambers. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot. Why are there so many fellas in like the first half? I think, no I don't. I do not think. I might do the same team I just did. But like, yeah, I'm gonna do at least my Elemental Mastery team, which is Yanfei, Kokomi, Nahida, and Miko. And also, I don't really have a lot of Dendro, who also have Hydro. I could do my Ayaka team. It's Ayaka, Yelan, however you say her name, Toma, Ayaka, of course, and then Baiju. My Baiju sucks at healing though. He also just sucks in general. I might switch him for Yao because I love Yao, but like she's not in this team. You know, I'm using Yao because I don't give a shit. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I don't care. That's alright. It's fine. Let's do this one. Oh wait, which floor am I on? Oh, 11. I usually only go to like 11, floor 11, chamber 3, honestly. Everyone come in. Yippee, thank you. Yee. Oh fuck, wrong button. It's fine, it's fine. I think you're sad. Love like that. Who just, okay. Ah! Can you guys stop, please? Stop attacking me? That'd be so great. That'd be amazing, actually. There's so much going on. I'm like confused and like overwhelmed, honestly. Oh, I didn't mean to do that, but it's fine. It's fine. It works. It works. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I was meant to switch to Yanfei actually. Oh my god. Okay. Why are there so many fellas? You know what? Fuck it. Nahida burst. My honest reaction. My honest reaction to that information. Nahida burst. Why are you dead? Can you die? That'd be so great of you, actually. Hi, Jordan! I love you! You're so silly. Okay. I don't like this outfit on Yelan, however you say her name is, honestly. I don't. Okay. Is this one? Okay, it's two guys. Two guys. We got this. Yippee! Yao time! Do not. Fuck you. This is homophobia. Die. B. Oh, there's definitely a damage bonus. And for Hydro and Dendro. Okay, I see. They said fuck you to everything, everyone else. Where's the other? Okay, there he is. B. Teehee, frozen. That's just... What is... Hold on. Jordan, hold on. I can't see what the fuck was that little thing is that you just sent in the chat. I don't... Why is... Okay. Why is it... Stop it! Get away from... Come here. Come get away from it. Thank you. Oh, do not move. Thank you. That's so cool of you. Thank you so much. Yay! Okay. What is a sub emote? That's cute! What is that, though? I see a heart, but like, I don't see anything else. Oh, fuck you! Oh, it's fine. It's not that deep. You know what you got? Ooh. Let's do the one. Oh, hi, Artemis! Pretty girl, wanna say hi? Pretty girl, say hi? Say hi, good morning. You good girl. Ow! Now I have hair on my lips. A red lion? That does not look like a lion. Ow. Sweet girl, you're on my headphones. Earphones, what the fuck ever they're called. Bear with me now. Okay. Can you not eat my bracelets, please? Thank you. That'd be so great, thank you. Oh, none of these fuckers. Okay, great. Love that. These are literally my least favorite guys. I hate the specters, but especially... Can you not eat that, please? Especially the Electro specters. I couldn't fucking think of their names. you guys die, please? That'd be oh fuck. I'm not using my fucking normal attack. I keep forgetting. Stop texting me. Why is the stream glitching, Jaya? Kill it. The fuck? Oh my god. Hold on, hold on, hold on. There's so much going on right now. I'm like overwhelmed, but like it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Go, pretty girl. What the hell? Jaya, I think it is your Wi-Fi, not gonna lie. It's like a you problem. Hi, Jaya. Why is it glitching? I'm Sag. I don't know why it's glitching, because it's not glitching for me. It's just a you problem, I think. That's so mean. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's not glitching. Okay, cool. I love everything. Jaya, shut up. Stop texting me. I'm not flustered. Stop it. This is a good song, actually. Hold on. I can fucking do this in my sleep, basically, at this point, because like I'm just like I've done this. I mean, not the Spiral Abyss, because I don't like to do it a lot. But I've done this fucking. I've played this game every day for like a while. 2 years, 3 years. Okay, everyone get together so I can. Ah! Stop it! The fuck? That's homophobia. Stop! Sorry, that was really loud. It's fine. It's fine. We're good. We're good. Okay, everyone die. Oh fuck! I thought I got. Oh, it's fine. We'll just get my shield. My shield. Artemis, can you not lay there, please? On my armrest, please. Don't do that. There's a hair. Oh my god. I'm overwhelmed. It's hot in here. There's more. Oh my god, there's more fellas. I hate this shit. I thought that was it. I need to look at the fucking remaining thing. Stop attacking me. Jordan, don't leave. This is also, yes, Jaya, this is Genshin Impact. This is the Spiral Abyss. Bye, Jordan. I love you. Yippee! Okay. There's so many guys. Why? Die. Thank you. Love that. Artemis. You can't even see her. It's fine. Okay, let's do this. Oh. Is it just you? Right now? I hate this lady, though, honestly. Well, fuck it, on my burst. You know, let's fuck it. Tell my burst. Was she? Okay. Let's also use Yelan's burst, because fuck you. I hate her. That's why. And I get my burst for Ayaka back even faster, I think, perhaps. Because my Yelan, how do you say her name? Her energy reach is really good. I think. I don't really use her, so I don't know. Okay. Why are you dying? Can you please just die? That'd be so great. So fun. So amazing. Artemis misses you, Jaya. Hi, pretty girl. You wanna say hi? You wanna say hi, pretty girl? I feel like I'm driving right now. Do not get from... This is arson. I don't think that's what I meant to say, but that works, actually. It's fine. This is arson, actually. It's fine. Okay, I need my burst back, please. Gimme. Oh fuck, I don't have that back either. Pretty girl, please move. You're gonna fall. What is this guy? I've never seen him before. Thank you. I've never seen this guy before. Okay, let's use burst. There's so much going on. Like I never pay attention to the numbers because like there's so many numbers like all the fucking time, and I just kind of like get used to it, I guess. Die. I love elemental mastery and energy recharge and other. Oh, slay. Oh fuck. I said slay too early, honestly. What the hell is that? I don't like that. Yay! Okay, this is usually like, this is the last one I usually do. I never do like floor 12 because that's like the hardest fucking one ever. Hit floor. Let's do elemental master. Sure. Fuck it. Let's do it. Jaya, you're funny. I love you. This song's so true. Okay. Kokomi. I choose you. Oh fuck! Do not do that. Do not kill me. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. If you kill me, I'm gonna sue you. Let's just, there we go. Miss the passion, I miss the action. Yippee! I was on your mind. Die! Oh, boy, you weren't close enough. This is homophobia. Ableism, transphobia, all the above. Who are you? Oh, there's two guys. I don't like that. Why are there two fellas? Ah! Nope. Nope. Thank you. Okay. I need her burst back. Come back, please. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just use Mika's burst. Because, you know, slay. And I use this burst too. For the shield. Yippee! You act so brand new since I lost you. Stop hitting me, please. Stop trying to kill me. That'd be so great. What sing is this? Sing? What sing? You said sing, so I said sing. This song is Since I Lost You by Issues. It's like their most recent song, but like they're not really. I don't know if they're still together actually. I don't know. Element all of the above. You're lagging, aren't you, Jaya? Ah! You're lagging. I think. Ow. Okay. Who are you? As if. I've never seen that movie actually. Ah! What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? I don't like that. Hello? Hello? Stop it. Are you Hydra or Cryo? I can't fucking tell. Just die. That'd be great actually. That'd be so— oh, fuck you. Heal me, heal me, heal me. Thank you, little man. Fella, guy. Switch, thank you. Die. There we go, okay. Ah! Fuck. I might have to use Yaya's burst, and I never fucking do that. Oh, fuck. No, don't. Ah! I hate this game. I hate this game. There we go. It's fine. Give me the skill back. Thank you. Give me the skill back again. Thank you. Amazing. You know what? I'm just gonna use a bunch of bursts. It's fine. Which character is sexy? But also, I'm so sorry you're lagging. Ah, fuck! No, Toma, no! Okay, there we go. Toma was about to die, but, like, you know, it's fine. I don't really know what that does, honestly. Yaga's burst. Fuck it. I'm just doing nonsense, honestly. I'm always doing nonsense. I love that song by Sabrina Carpenter. I actually really do, not gonna lie. Which character is sexy? I think Lauren left. Can you die, please? Oh my god, why are you taking fucking forever? I'm gonna kill you in real life. What? Don't move. There you go. Tee. Oh, you— garbage. Hate this game. Oh, that's Yelan. I don't like her, honestly. Hold on, I'll show you in a second. Ah! Stop moving around, the fuck. Oh, fuck. Don't do it, don't do it. Oh, garbage! It's fine, I didn't die. It's fine. Please die, please die, please die, please die. I'm, like, begging you at the point. Just die. That'd be great. Listen to the camera like I'm in the office. You've been at like 1 HP for like 10 seconds. Oh my god. I don't want to do the 12th floor. I don't want to do this. But I might as well, honestly. Oh, I know. That's not that song. It's pirated, I promise. Oh, that was Yelan. I forgot to show you. Hold on. This is her. This is her. What song is this? What song is this? I don't like this song, actually. I don't care for it. This is a good song. Okay. The ley line flow will be— I don't know what that means. Will be normal? Okay. Level 100. I think I will die. But let's try it, because I've never tried, floor 12, honestly. It's fine. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so— what? We're out. Yeah. Okay, anyway. I lost my train of thought. Okay. That guy, this guy, summons other guys. So let's do second half. Let's do Layla. I don't know who else. I don't want to do Farina because Farina and Arlecchino. I want to do Arlecchino, but like Farina is not ideal on Arlecchino's team. I don't know. My brain's not working. Okay. Brain's not working. It's like done. I'm already tired. Layla. Miko, I think. Arlecchino. And then... I need a healer. Maybe Yao Yao. Maybe perhaps Yao Yao. Because she's one of my best healers. Perhaps. No death bad. I mean, yeah, true. Thank you. I'm like slow in reading these, honestly. It's only been a minute, but it's fine. Oh, what was I doing? Okay. Just Disguise. I think... No, I don't. I don't think. That's the whole tweet. That is the whole problem, I don't think. My brain's not working. So, I should probably... I can't use... Pyro, really. I can use Pyro. Oh, wait, you know, fuck it. Fuck it, let's just use Ganyu. Then who's gonna be number 2? Let's just do this team. With A and Navia and Barbara. Fuck it, let's do it. So fun. Say. Okay. I don't fucking know. Let's do this one, I guess. I'm literally just vibing. I love that for me. Ah! Fuck. Don't kill me. That's not cool. That's not very Cash Money of you. I wish... I want that to come back. Like that little saying. I think it's so funny. Let go. So fun. Die. The fuck? Ah! Oh, we're good. Okay. 2 out of 5. It's gonna be 3 out of 5 in a second. Stop it. That's what she's... No? No, it's not what she said, actually. I mean... Say, I guess? If she wants to say that, then go ahead. I don't know. I'm being silly. Actually, let me just... There we go. Teehee. Why did you move? Stop that. It's not very cool of you. Cash Money! So true. I want to say... Oh, fuck. I was frozen. I was reading your fucking chat, and then I... Hold on. I'm trying to... Multitasking is not good for me. I'm not good at it. That's what I mean. Why did you move? I'm going to... I was gonna say eat your hand, but that's not very... Sometimes I just say words. I say things, and I don't know what they mean. Stop! Do not freeze me. Oh, this is why I hate using Barbara sometimes. Stop freezing me. It's annoying as fuck. Why are you doing shit? Oh, because they're level 95. Okay, you know what? Let's do this. Stop! That's so annoying. Literally nothing is like more annoying in this fucking game than being frozen. Because like I have to like slam on the spacebar like 50,000 times, and it's so. Why are you guys dying? I'm literally gonna not like get any stars from this because they're not dying. They just won't die, which is not very Cash Money. I hate this fucking game. But oh my, stop. They're not even halfway dead yet. I can't fucking do this shit. This is so difficult. Why are they so alive? Stop it. My teams are not that strong. I need to like... I'm bad about... Oh my... Take a shot every time I get fucking frozen, which... I'm gonna give up with this fucking thing. I'm aggravated. At this point, I can't do this. This is fucking crazy. I hate this game. This is nonsense. That wasn't cool. I was literally in the middle of talking and you interrupted me. Like, that was homophobic and ableist and just not cool at all. Stop killing me. I'm for real gonna cry. Like, this is fucking... I didn't even notice I was fucking frozen because I was looking at his HP. I hate this fucking game. Never back down, never what? I don't know. Never what? I don't know. Stop! I hate this game! There's still... don't know if I can fucking do this. I literally might cry just because it's so fucking funny. But also, like, I hate this game. This is fucking ridiculous. I hate this game. I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to play this anymore. What's that one fucking quote? I don't want to do this anymore, Grandpa, or something like that. And I don't know how it goes, honestly. I've done, like, my bursts, like, at least 50,000 times. Don't. Thank you. That's so cool of you. Why the... My life is so hard. Stop freezing me, please. I will literally stop freezing. I'm like running from him at this point. I never give. Oh, real, never give up. That's so true, honest. I'm gonna give up. I'm sorry, Jaya. I'm going to give up on this because it's gonna take me too long, and I'm too impatient for this, and I don't want to do this. It's just like it's so annoying. I'm just annoyed now. Please die. Be a bro. Be a pal and just die. I need to stop saying these things. It's like, what the fuck? I hate this. I hate this game. 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 I say it. Stop freezing! I hate this game. I'm gonna lose my fucking stamina because you guys are stupid and won't die. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not that serious. It's not that serious. I'm just dramatic as fuck. Finally, one guy died. Okay, do not. There we go. Okay, we're good. Can you please take one for the team and die? Jaya, what are you saying okay to? Broken heart too. Haha, so real. I am always real. Yes, thank you. Stop! I'm not even gonna get 1 star from this. I fucking hate this game. I'm just trying to dodge this fucking ice. Cryo attacks. That's why I hate this fucking... Fuck it. I hate this game. Please die. 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 Why do you have like 1,000 HP? Oh my god, I don't... That was only chamber 1! I don't want to do this. Oh. Yeah, you were saying okay to me, give me... I don't want to do this! Oh my god. I don't even have I don't know how much time I have left. But then I'm not... You know, I don't want to try. I don't even want to try. My life is just hard. Let's try it. Fuck it. Let's fuck it. Let's try it. Let's try it. I don't want to do this, Grandpa. I don't think that's how it goes, but yeah, I don't give a shit. It's fine. I made it up now. Okay, first time. And then Arlecchino. Let's go Slay. Why is this so much easier? Why is he dying a lot quick? I don't like this. Maybe my team just fucking sucked. Okay, okay. What? Fuck. There we go. Okay, I know. Let's go. Let's go. Actually, I don't know. I lied. Spring into the summer. Ah! What the fuck? Where did you come from? Stop. Just stop. That'd be so cool of you, actually. You know what? Hold on. There we go. Give me my burst back, please. Ah! Homophobia. Hi, Olive. Kitty Olive. Jai, you're so laggy. Cause I don't know when I said I love you. What the fuck why am I flying? Okay, we're not doing that. We're not doing that again. I refuse. I'm sorry. I refuse. Okay. What else can we do? I have a lot in this game to do that I could do. You know, fuck it. I just wanted to get this out. Oh, there's 7 of... Let's not do that. That's like 7 of those. What am I doing? Let's just claim this real quick. Real quick. Ooh, 44 to 47. Slay. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. I'm normal. Lie. Anyway. Me when I lie. Oh, I can get awards. What is the difference between rewards and awards? Sorry, I'm abandoning that. I don't give a shit. It's fine. It's fine. Sometimes you just gotta quit, and that's fine. That's fine. You just gotta quit. He can go for miles. You know, let me just collect everything else, because, like, I don't want to get that right now. Okay, that was it. Jaya, get better Wi-Fi. What else can I do? Oh, wait, I haven't explored a lot of Natlan, actually. I do have 100% like everywhere except for Natlan because I'm oh wait, actually, what the fuck? I don't have 100% here. What do I not have? What do I not have? Like, I don't know. I am just autistic about this game. And I've been playing for 2 years. I love autism. It's just 100% everywhere. And I love that for me. Fontaine. Yeah, yippee. Oh, it is Natlan, okay. 28%, that's weak as fuck, not gonna lie. For me, especially. These are also, like, where the keys, or where we use the keys for? Like, I don't know how to describe things. Words are hard. I love autism. The 100% on the map, it means, like, I've done it, like, I've explored it 100%, that's what it is. So, like, this is, like, it says exploration progress. So it's 28%. I've only explored like 28% of like this area. If that makes sense. I don't know how to make sense either. It's fun. It's fine. It's fine. I'm pretty. I'm cool. I'm funny. I don't need to make sense. Okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? I love this fucking song. Jaya, quit! Quit! I'm red, stop. I'm not used to, like, compliments, okay? That's very clear. I'm not used to compliments. Who? Sorry, people are liking my tweet. Stop it. Just not, do it later, please. What am I doing? I love you, Jaya. You're silly. Okay, what am I doing in this game? What can I do? There's, like, a lot that I can explore, but I don't... Brain is still not working. Brain is... What is it? Internet Explorer. Right? Because, like, Internet Explorer is, like, slow as fuck. Yeah, that's sweet. I also don't have this. How do I get that? I may... Do I have to swim? You know what? Let's try to get that teleport waypoint, actually. Just real quick. Let's see if I can do it. Yes, I love Internet Explorer. I love being... Yeah. That's the tweet. Okay. Oh, wait, where the fuck is the... Oh, he's right there. Taylor Acorn, love of my life. How do I get up there? How do I... Hello? Oh, there's a silly guy down there. Okay, how do I get up there? I probably have to go over there and get a little guy. Do I have to do that? I don't want to do that, but I might have to do that. I think I will have to do that. I don't want to do that. My life is so hard. Okay. It's fine, I'm normal. Where are they? There's one guy down there, but I don't want to go all the way down there. Do not notice me. I'm not here. What are you talking about? I'm not here. There's nothing here. I love gaslighting the hilly churls. Okay. What the fuck is that? Oh. Okay. Life is hard. I don't want to summon... Okay, fine. Fuck it. You know, let's do it. Let's summon the guy. Why is there a little guy around it? I forgot that's not summoning the guy. Oh, fuck. I hate this game. That's not summoning the guy. Where the fuck do I summon a guy? Where? Oh, there's a chest over there. You know, let's kill him. Yeah. Words are hard. In advance. Over. Capybaras! Look at how cute they are. They have no eyes. Look, that one's snoozing. Hello! Wake up! Let's play. Yippee! Let's have zoomies. Oh, he's sick. Fancy. Oh my god, he had to roll over. Good puppy. Capybara thing, whatever the fuck ever you are. This one's gonna drown! The fuck? You need to breathe. He's like drowning. But he's fine, you know? It's fine. He's fine. He is dead. Rip. Okay, anyways, kill those fuckers. Hello! Wake up! It's time to die! One shot. Let's go. I love my Arlecchino. She's so amazing. Oh, fuck. I didn't know there was a guy there. Beep. Tee-hee. I cracked myself the fuck up. Jai, you're so funny. You're so laggy. He is underwater and he's dying, but he's fine. Is he okay? Yeah, but he died. I love the fucking meme. Okay, what is over there? I'm fish. That's not what I meant to say, but that works too, I guess. ADHD brain for real. I'm so funny. What is over here? Oh, hello. What the fuck is this? What are you? Okay, hold on. Let me summon a guy. This is what I meant by summon a guy. Like, I turn into a guy. That doesn't make sense still, probably, but it's fine. Oh, fuck. I don't remember the... Yeah! What? Hello? How do I do this? How do you... Do you not do this? Like this? Ah! I'm confused. I'm confused. I'm confused. I don't know how these puzzles work anymore. Like, in this region. Do I need a bigger guy? Like this guy? The scenery is really pretty. It's a really pretty game. Fuck, wrong button. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Go up. Higher. I don't think I can go up. Fuck. Just jump. Just jump! It's not that hard. You're doing it. Just higher. There we go. That's so real. This game is confusing. Why are you doing anything? Why do you hate me? How the fuck am I supposed to do this? You know what, I'm giving up on this right now. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I'll come back to it if anything. No, there has to be something. There's something over here. Where is this? Where is it? Where is the thingy thing? Where is it? Wait! That's why I need a guy. I also want to go to this waterfall. It looks so nice. Oh my god, Jaya. Am I... Oh, what the fuck? Hello. Okay, slay. Wait, where's the fuck? Where's the fuck? I said what I said. I told you. Where the fuck is the little... Is the little... I'm confused. Where am I going? Is there like a thing under like behind the... Stop it. Behind the waterfall? I'm afraid. Let's test it. Nothing yet. I don't think there's anything behind the waterfall. Wait. No, what the hell? How am I supposed to get that? How am I supposed to get that? What? I don't know. I forgot what the fuck I was doing. So true, a picnic and a smoke on a waterfall. Definitely what I meant to say. Okay, where am I going? My ADHD is so fucking bad. I just realized what I went through. Like, all of that shit. I just get distracted easily. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Hello, fella guys. Mr. Alpaca, whoever you are. Please don't attack me. I'm not here to kill you. I'm just vibing. I'm just vibing. It's chill. It's chill. We're good. Jai, you're funny. I would retweet that. Who wants to go there with me? I would go there with you all the time. Like, every time. No, if you want, whatever. Hold on. Are you talking to me? Okay, good. Okay, okay. Let's kill these guys. Ah! Fuck. Ah! There we go. I couldn't move for a second. Jaya, I love you. Fuck. I'm gonna... Stop! Move! Thank you. I hate using him because, like, it doesn't switch half the time when I want it to. Because, like, he's like, in the fucking air. Like, it's stupid. Like, with his skill, I mean. Hold on, let me show you, Oh, fuck, I need this guy to come back. No, we're not listening to that song. Oh, it's a good song. I just think. Okay, where am I going? Let's go over here. Okay, so, like, this is his skill. He's, like, up in the air. Like, why? There's no reason. There's no song where he has to be doing all that. No, for real, like. What's the name of the waterfall place? Ah! It's a not. Hold on. So it's here. The Ancestral Temple in Genshin Impact. Try that. Ancestral. Let me take a picture just in case you're like lagging. There we go. And it's in Natlan. Yippee! Ooh, hello, fellow guys. Hello, would you like to die? Too bad. What the fuck is that up there? In my room and think about you. I love pressing buttons and doing nothing. What is this? Hello? What is this? I want to mine this real quick though. Hold on. Yippee! Yay! I need mining stuff. Okay, what? What is this? Ah! Fuck! I did not mean to do that. Activate? I don't need to activate anything. What is this? What? Bye! Okay, what am I doing? What is this little fella guy for? Hello? Oh! What am I doing? What is the point in this? I'm confused. I don't understand this. Oh, I got a chest! Let's go! It's fine, it's fine. I don't need to understand it. I just need to get a chest. Okay, where's... Okay, it's right there. What's over here, though? Is there anything? Any chest? Question mark? Question mark? Ah, there's guys! There's fellas! I don't want that. Fuck, I need to get back up there, actually. Hold on. She said I turn the lights off in my room and think about you. Real. I'm normal. I'm so normal. I'm confused. Am I supposed to go over there with this guy, with this little fella? He is so creepy, not gonna lie. Like T-Rex kind of, but not. Ah! That's not gonna work. He's gonna drown, isn't he? He's gonna drown. Yep, it's fine, it's fine. I'm not here! What are you talking about? I'm not here. Stop! Stop attacking me! Stop attacking me, stop attacking me. Oh, what the fuck is that actually? Hold on. Hold on, what the fuck is that? What it- Stop! I'm not here! I'm nervous. Give me the viewpoint, thank you. Okay, give me the teleport weapon. Stop! That's not cash money, it's not cool. I'm the normalest ever. I am the normal. I love being normal. Ah, fuck, okay. Let's just teleport away because I don't know how to deal with that right now. Where have I... Is that any better? It's 31%. Okay, that's cool. That's better than it was before. That's 28. I'll never be the one you need. I did say it, Jaya. Here, let me send you the photo of like the little area. Hold on, Jaya. I got you. When I'm all alone. Oh wait, hold on. Let me just like, take another picture where like my little cursor is above the area. There we go. I'm sending this to you, Jaya. I'm taking a picture and then I'm sending it to you. Hold on, Jaya. Where my cursor is. In Natlin. Not Nathan. Who the fuck is Nathan? Who the fuck is Nathan? Who the fuck is Nathan? I physically cannot give you any more than that. Yippee! Jaya, is my mic like lagging compared to my music? Like when I sing with the music, is it like lagging? Why do I use so many fucking... Why do I use my hands so much? You sound good. Okay, but like, is it like in time? That's what I'm asking, you know? Yippee! Let's go, it's not lagging. I love everything. I love life. Life loves me, for real. How long have I been fucking streaming? I can't tell. An hour! Let's go! Jaya, just stop lagging. It's simple. Just stop it. You're lagging? Stop. Okay, I need to farm, actually, some things. What do I need to farm? Oh, fuck, I'm still here. Oh, fuck, I forgot. I forgot what the fuck I was doing. Okay, I'm on fire. You know what? Why are you stop? Oh, I forgot the fuck I was talking. What we're talking about. Just stop lagging. You don't have to stop. You have to stop lagging. That's it. That's a tweet. I never know what the fuck I'm talking about. So I'm not surprised when other people don't know what I'm saying or what I'm talking about. Because, like, I get it. Because me neither. Okay, what do I need to get? Oh. Yeah, I'm very autistic about this game if you can't fucking tell. I have all of these. And all of these. I'm autism. I love autism! Wow! Okay, what am I doing? Where's Barbara's? There it is. I put some Barbara. Tupac. What am I doing? It's a good song. Okay, I have to kill the little fella guys. I don't want to do that. But let's farm for these guys. Those little fella guys, because they're freaky and they're monsters. I mean, technically anything is a monster if you know, it's the same thing as like a UFO. Anything is an unidentified or I give up. Words are hard. I don't get. Okay. First of all, look at all my teams. I'm autism. I love autism. Yeah, these are all my teams. I'm so cool. Oh wait, Jai, this is Yelan. She's okay. She's an archer. She's a hydro. She's pretty cool. I'm sorry. I'll take pictures for you. Okay. I'll take pictures for you. Once I remember how to fuck to screenshot things on my PC. Okay. I forgot what the fuck I was doing. Yeah, these are my teams. I love Slay. I love Slay. Honestly, yeah, words are real. This is my last team. I don't use this team because Milani is so confusing. I don't understand how she works. I don't understand any of it. Like I think I understand, but then I'm like, no, I don't understand. So it's kind of nonsense. And this is my team called Nonsense. That is just whatever. Honestly, yeah, the girls are bad as fuck. That's why I love every girl in this fucking game. And also Toma. Toma, I love Toma too. He's the only man that I like in this game. Because he is male wife, literally. He is literally male wife. Like his lore is that he is a maid, I think. He's a housekeeper. He's literally the housekeeper for what fuck ever that is. I don't really know the lore too much. But yeah, he is a maid and he's also a shielder. Male wife. What did I say? What did I say? Did I not say male wife? What did I say? Make men housekeepers again. So true, honestly. What did I say? I don't remember. I said male wife. Did I? Oh wait, no. You didn't say. You said. I'm so confused. It's fine. You don't need to be. You don't need to understand things whenever you're this cool. I'm just here for the vibes, for real. What am I doing? What was I doing? Oh, I was switching my team. That's why I came into this team thingy things. She's home, as in Chlorinde. I love her. I don't. What am I doing? Just a bit of the drama queen. The fuck is those little noises? I think it's part of the song. I hope so. Oh, little buggies. Gimme. Thank you. I love collecting stuff. I love autism. Take a shot every time I fucking say that, apparently. What song? What song is this? Hold on. Sun Sleep. I don't want to listen to it right now. No. I don't want to listen to it either. No! This is a good song. Sorry. This is a good song. It's Little Mix. I love Little Mix. I miss Little Mix. Wake up! Wake up! Let's play! This night, no, I don't wanna talk about her. I really wanna fix your hurt. Can you attack him, please? That'd be so great, thank you. Die! That'd be so cash money! Again. Fuck. It's fine. It's fine. We're good. We're good. We're safe. We're alive. It's fine. Oh fuck, I don't have her go back. Okay. I want to be the shoulder you lie on. Every night, I'll be fine, if you're mine. Why is it so close to the city? I don't like that. It makes me nervous. Oh, I just sneezed. What is this? Let's teleport anyway. It's probably not closer, actually, than the actual teleport point. What is that? Oh, it's fire. Just one night. I can take a place. Oh, I need those. I need those little flower things, actually. For, I don't know how to say her name. She's a Jaguar lady who's coming up soon. Stop liking my tweets! It's just I need to put my phone over, actually. There we go. There we go. So I don't see it whenever I get notifications. Or I can just turn it on Do Not Disturb. I don't like to do that though. Because I don't know why I don't like to do that, actually. I don't care. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway. Stop! I hate when she does that. Every day, every night, I'll be fine. I'ma take care of you. I love not being disturbed. I love being not disturbed. That's me personally. I love being not disturbed. Remember what I said? Just one night. Little capybaras! Oh, that's a big man. Give me flower, please. Don't you know I tried to forget about you at night? Look at this fella. He's like a giraffe. Are you fuck off. Giraffe man? I think. Wait, do I get it? Hold on. He's tall. My hair goes in his face. In his stomach. I know body parts. Yeah. I'ma take care of you. Wait. Hold on. Do I get a thing for like puppies? I guess not. I guess not. Why the fuck are they there then? If you're there and I'm here, who's giving me chests and rewards? That did not really make sense. It's fine. Stop attacking me, please. I'm not here. If you let me try, I can prove. Give me the flowers, please. I would take care. What am I doing? Okay, what am I doing? I can take a place. Ooh. Who texts me? Oh, I didn't check birth control. Birth control. I love getting. What is it? What's the format? I love this beautiful woman in my phone called birth control. I just have a reminder that reminds me to take birth control. I need to tweet that actually once I figure out what the fuck I'm trying to say. What am I doing right now actually? How? Let's go out. Let's try to get up there real quick. Jai, you see my vision. Thank you. You always get it. You always get me. I love Telltale. Okay. What is this? Hello? I don't want to talk to you right now, but like I'm gonna forget that you're here. It's fine. I'll come back later. I'll come back eventually sometime. Okay, I need a guy, a little fella, to summon. I think. Where are the fellas? Where are the fellas? Where the fellas? There's a beautiful woman in my phone called Take Your Fucking Meds. She hits me up every day, but it's kind of crazy. That's a good tweet, Jai. You need to tweet that. I'm not kidding. Please tweet that. I'll retweet it. It's funny. Ooh. Where the fuck are oh, there's a guy. I did him, actually. Come here. Yippee! Look how cute he is. I love him. Do not attack me. I'm just a little guy. I'm just a fella. It's fine. Where am I going? What? Where am I going? I don't like this. Hello? Where the fuck did I go? I wasn't controlling that. The fuck? Oh, more guys. More fellas. I'm stealing all of this food. If it's yours, no, it's not. My food now. Okay. Let's leave this little guy. Oh, what the fuck? What's here? This has to give me a chest or something, actually. Where's the other guy? Oh, okay. I'm gonna get that later. I want to get this little thing first. There's a chest! I see a chest! If you broke... What the? I don't know the words. I saw something shiny over here. Oh. Oh, there's a lot of fucking shit. Love that for me. Okay. Let's go to this guy and see if I get a chest for some fucking reason. Let me, yeah, there we go. Damn, so no chest. Breaks skateboard. I forgot the word for a second. Okay. What was I doing initially? Damn, no chest! You get it! Okay, let's kill these fuckers. I don't want to kill the guy. Oh, he's so cute, but I don't want to kill him. But it's he apparently have to. I have to. Like literally, I have to in this game. I don't like it. Like the humans, I don't give a shit. It's fine. But the little fellas, I don't want to kill them. They're cute. Die, please. Ah! Fuck. Makes normal noises because I'm very normal. I crack myself up. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I literally do not care if anyone else like laughs at what I say because I crack myself up. I'm good. I think I'm funny. I know I'm funny actually. That's very Leo Rising of me to say. It's fine. It's fine. I'm very Leo Rising. Oh fuck, wrong button. It's fine because like I used to not be like this like at all. I used to be very reserved, very insecure, very in a abusive relationship. I'm kind of scared to say that, not gonna lie, still, for many reasons. No, you know what? I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared anymore. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not scared. Cause like, why would I be scared? There's no control anymore. I'm not. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, me talking to my fucking self right now, like my therapist. I'm good. Wait, that's a leaked song. Oops, I did not realize. Oh, this is between you and me. I think. I didn't know me to do that. It's so fun. It's fine. It's fine. I just went. Ah! What the fuck? There's a guy. I should probably kill them because I do need their loot, but I don't want to. They're so cute. I don't want to. It wasn't really a leaked song. I mean, yeah, it was a leaked song. It was like unreleased. That's what it was. It was unreleased. It technically was a leaked song, honestly. It's fine. Where am I going? Oh, okay, I'm going over here. Hey, go fish, don't get another. Okay, Jaya, go use the bathroom. They're probably in the bathroom right now, actually. Hello, Jaya. Die. I don't know the words. It's fine. I actually need to pee too. I should probably end this soon because I need to pee. It is 10. It's past my bedtime. It is past my bedtime. Stop! Thank you. I love when everyone listens to me and just dies. I say a lot of shit out of context. I just realized, but it's fine. It's fine. Won't let you swim in my head again. I like this. This is fun. Where am I going? Won't let you swim in my head again. I'll make you regret. Oh, oh. Where am I going? Oh. What's that? Oh, they're little llamas? I almost said lamps. That's not right. Lamps, llamas, same thing? Question mark, question mark? Oh, I love this part of the song. Hold on. What is it? You suck my dick. That's my favorite part. It's real. I love that. Ah, fuck, wrong character. Die! So call me after. In my head again. Ah! I'm so good at dodging. I don't want to say that actually. Master Dodger. Why does it sound like that? What is... For real, I don't think. I just say things. What are you doing? Did I interrupt something? Hello? What are you doing? What is he? Why is he eating the rocks? I'm not here. 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 I'm good. Okay, what am I doing now? Same guy. What I need is sound. A reason to keep the secrets from myself. Wait, how do I get up there? Oh, there we go. I'm wide awake. If I have to, tell me what good would that do? Hi, Jaya! Listening to Mariana's Trench right now. I don't know how to say the fucking name, honestly. Mary, I don't know. So good to you, I'd be so... Oh, fuck! No, I don't want a guy! I summoned a guy, I did not mean to... Wait, I want the other thing. Fuck you. Somebody's gone. I don't know how this is wrong. So frustrated. Ah! Fuck. You were a friend of mine. Can you guys die, please? That'd be so great. That'd be so amazing. Ah, I don't have my purse back. Fuck. Garbage. Can you stop hitting me? That'd be amazing, actually, if you stop. What did I just say? Like, this is not fair. I feel like this should be, like, even and, like, fair for everyone who plays this game. Like, there should not be 2 against 1. I'm just talking shit right now. Like I do. They don't know. Wait, thank you. Give me health. Give me my skill back now, actually. Thank you. Give me... Look into the camera like I'm in the office. Fuck. There we go. I can't do that. I can't do that without, like, being quiet right now. I would have to... What the fuck is the word? I don't know. Words are hard. I'm just vibing, you know? Actually, I think I need that guy's loot. That fella. Beep! Tee! That wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't me. Go back home again. Oh, frick! There's a big ravine. I miss Minecraft. That reminds me of Minecraft. I miss Minecraft. Ooh. That's a good chest, I think. This son? Whose son? This is, hold on. This is, Masterpiece Theater number 3 by Mariana's Trench. Whose son are you eating? In the worst way. It's getting... I don't want to fight these guys. Stop it. What the fuck? Where did you come from? Stop. Do not summon. Just stop. Just stop. It's great. That'd be so kind of you. So amazing of you, actually. If you just stopped. Like... I think if you attack me, you are... awful and homophobic and... not fun. Like, totally. That was so fucking white girl. Valley girl, what the fuck ever it's called. So here's another day I'll spend away from you. Another night I'm on another broken avenue. Trading in who I've been for shiny celebrity skin. I like to push it until my luck is over. Stop. I love this song. It's like a medley of like all their other songs. Of like on the album, I think. Or like maybe all of their songs like in total. Yeah. Ah! Do not kill me! Stop it. Yeah, that'd be cool if you died. Eee! See, that was so cool of you, so amazing. Eee! I thought you wanted me. What am I doing? So good. I literally have goosebumps right now. This song is so good. I love acapella. What are these guys doing over there? What are they doing? I need to go to bed. Yeah. You go to bed, Jaya. I'm just vibing. What's this? What is this? Hello? Hello? Oh, there's a man in the cage over there. Sleeping. I think you said sleeping is so fun. I think that's what you're trying to say. Oh. Oh, there's an FTL up there. Okay. Do I want to do this right now? Wait, how much resin do I have? I have 90. It's fine. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do my resin tomorrow if anything. My brain. Yeah, that's the tweet. That's the tweet. My brain. Actually, that's not even the tweet. That's not even the tweet. Actually, I didn't. This is Chlorinde. Okay. What? Fuck, my fucking earphone came out because I got excited. Oh, this is a good song. So Jaya. I'll press the wrong button. This is Chlorinde. She is canonically but non-canonically girlfriends with Navia. Like definitely. Like they're like what is the term? Like soft. What is it? Soft launching. The Hoyoverse, or the company of this fucking game, is like soft launching. Has been soft launching Navia and Chlorinde. But they're definitely dating. That's Cheverus. I did not mean to. Why is she in the middle of them? Girl, don't be homophobic. Skull emoji. Jaya, that's not what I meant. I mean, I guess, but that's not what I meant. I don't know what they're up to. Soft launch. That's what I meant to say. So silly. What am I? I'm just pressing buttons right now. I remember laughing with them. I love my characters. My friends in the forest. House on a mountain. Feminine. He just exists. Dea also just exists. Kaya is a fella. Haizu, a guy. We've become. Honestly, yeah, baddies all around. Wait, how many? I want to see how many women there are. I don't want to. I'm gonna count it. Fuck it. 1, 2. Hold on, I wish I had music on. I can't count. But there's music on. 1, 2, 3. Wait, do we want to do women? Wait, let's do women, not girl, not like little girls. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I forgot how to count. 7, 8, 9, 10. This will mean 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Nope. She's a little girl. 20, 21, 22, 23. That's Baji. Oops. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I could have just looked this up. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. 42 women! Feminists! And how many men are there, though? I don't know. I don't want to know. I'm good. What the fuck am I doing? These are just buttons. Constellation unlock level. So who do I not have? Sethos. How the fuck you say his name? I don't have any constellation for him. Weak. It's fine. I don't use him anyway. It's fine. Wait. Why didn't it stay? How many constellations do I have for Klee? Oh, I thought I had one at least. Okay, damn. I love a baddie who can count. That's not me. I can't do math. Clearly. I was an English major. And you know that, actually, Jaya. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but, like, there's my fire alarm going off every so often. It's fucking annoying. And I don't know how to fix it. Well, I know how to fix it. Sorry, it's Gracie Abrams. We're changing the song. Fuck. I didn't mean to do that. This is a good song, but I need to go the fuck to bed. Who's texting me? Misunderstood. I'm not from your... Fire alarms need to be quiet as hell. I don't want to go to bed, Jaya. I don't want to. You're... Teething? Hello? I mean, if you want to. I'm silly. I don't know the words. Okay. I need to end this. Yee! Jaya, I'll like text you. I can't read. But yeah, I'm going to bed. Good night.